Hey there, focused learners, and welcome to today's explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this material today. We are going on a fascinating journey, starting all the way up with the messy, deeply human nuances of how we connect, and zooming all the way down to the concrete, computational core of what is known as the OMI object model. We're going to unpack exactly how abstract human agreement is mathematically translated into an architecture that literally builds a shared digital world. Here is a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start by redefining digital agreement, then look at the 12 tribes, orient ourselves with the Omi Compass, dive into building topology with NEAT, and finally wrap up with operators and memory families. Let's get into it.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, redefining digital agreement and moving beyond the simple click. Okay, so to really grasp the OAMI object model, we've kind of got to throw out everything we assume about what it means to agree online today. Right now, our concept of agreement is entirely passive. It's just social metrics. I voted for this, I hit the like button, or the platform accepted my post. It's fleeting, it's surface level. But in OAMI, agreement is an active structural mechanism. It means this object has a valid frame and this object has a replay path. Agreement here isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It is the exact moment a shared intelligence becomes a portable, replayable structure. And this concept right here perfectly illustrates the massive flaw we're living with today. Centralized apps completely own the account. They own the feed, the database, the object ID, and ultimately, they get to decide what the truth state is. They trap us in these passive roles as mere consumers. Well, Omi flips this entirely. It replaces centralized platform ownership with decentralized bridging, where your actual structural agreement forms the bridge, rather than some corporate database owning your truth. Moving right along to Section 2, the 12 tribes which make up the human covenant layer. These are the 12 tribes of agreements, and what's really cool is they aren't strict, rigid commandments. They're more like relational lenses. Notice how that first grouping protects personhood, where freedom opens up possibilities, autonomy steers them, sovereignty guards them, and reciprocity shares them. Meanwhile, that third grouping balances real-time interaction, ensuring agreement never erases the actual person who is agreeing. Stop interrupts the flow, yes intends to proceed, no draws a hard line, and acknowledgement simply considers the input. Which brings us to Section 3, orienting with the Omi Compass, also known as the geonomic transliteration. So what actually is the Omi Compass? Well, it's defined as a 6 degrees of freedom, or 6 DOF compass. Basically, you can think of it as this absolutely crucial middle layer. Its whole job is to orient your perception before you ever make a claim, pass a judgment, or take an action. Because honestly, if your perception is unoriented to begin with, any agreement you try to build on top of it is just going to fail. Let's actually break down how this compass works in practice, using the middle layer of those tribes. First, focus centers. It asks what part of me is being reflected right now. Then, attention follows. Like what signal is actually pulling the frame. Next up, observation witnesses. It clarifies what can actually be seen versus what is just being assumed. And finally, experience remembers. What lived path produced this understanding? These 4 words powerfully translate private, internal knowing into a shareable framing that the protocol can actually understand and process. All right, on to Section 4, building topology with NEAT. This is where agreement literally becomes construction. Let's talk about NEAT. That stands for Neuroevolutionary Augmented Topology. Under this system, agreement is actually the default augmentation operator of Omi. When 2 or more intelligences reach a bounded relation, the topology literally changes. And this is key. It doesn't change because they merely feel the same about something. It changes because they've created a brand new shared structure. Disagreement isn't some huge social failure here. It's just unallocated entropy, like a pile of loose, unused bricks. Agreement is taking those loose bricks and purposefully building a durable wall. So how does this actually flow? It's kind of like a mechanical assembly line for abstract human intent. It starts with an agreement, which immediately forms a boundary. Now that boundary requires a structure, so it becomes a rule, a fact, a closure, or a combinator. This then binds into what's called a cons relation, which ultimately produces a validated frame. And from that frame, we get a receipt, which leads to a permanent topology update, every single time. Just picture this for a second. Someone simply says something online. Normally, that's just a fleeting, invisible comment. But here, that informal human action is the perception entering the frame. The portal frames it, the frame validates it, the truth row resolves, and boom, a permanent inspectable receipt is recorded. It is no longer just an opinion floating in the ether. It officially becomes an object with a mathematical proof path. And that leads us perfectly into our final section, Section 5, Operators and Memory Families. Welcome to the computational core of the whole thing. To make all this topology building actually happen, NEAT works through 4 mechanical gears. We call these the OMI channel operators, and these are the 4 motions by which NEAT augments topology. Join binds separated channels together. Compose orders those transformations into replayable paths. Encode lowers meaning into a carrier format, kind of like turning a physical item into a scannable barcode. And decode raises that carrier back up into inspectable meaning. Now, if the operators are the motion, where is the data actually going? That's where the 5 OMI meta memory families come in. They are the surfaces that actually remember things. Think of it like this. Rules constrain what's allowed. Facts ground those statements into reality. Closures bound domains so logic doesn't leak out. Combinators transform the operations, and cons acts as paired memory cells. And here is the magic, where it all comes together. The 4 operators are constantly moving and weaving through these 5 memory families. So you join rules, facts, closures, combinators, and cons. You compose rules, facts, closures, combinators, and cons. You encode them all and you decode them all. The operators provide the motion and the families provide the memory. This constant, highly structured weaving is exactly how the entire relation space of Omi grows layer by layer. Which brings us to this absolutely foundational doctrine. Listen to this closely. Agreement is all you need, because agreement is how entropy becomes topology. Now, agreement isn't everything just because everyone has to hold hands and agree all the time. Not at all. Agreement is everything because any shared world fundamentally requires a bridge. No bridge, no topology. No topology, no world. It is the messy, unpredictable entropy of our human connection that provides the exact raw material to build this verifiable digital universe. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on today. If your digital footprint out there required structural, verifiable agreement where you actually held a replayable receipt of your interactions instead of just handing over passive ownership to a massive corporation, how would that completely redefine your digital humanity right now? It's a massive paradigm shift. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on today's Explainer Focus Learners. Keep exploring, stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.